Okay, I think we're live now. So this is a special update live stream that we're doing because the cold spell is so severe that the demand for doing a second live stream is indeed there. So Gav's here with me again, and we're going to be discussing the cold spell and looking at forecasts, and we'll be taking questions sort of periodically as we usually do as well. So this is the current radar. Any comments you'd like to make on it?
Well, evening, everybody. It's been so cold today, hasn't it? It's really, really brutal cold that we've got now, as we anticipated and expected. But yeah, so we've got this heavy snow in the south, and I think it's a little bit further east, a little bit more widespread maybe than a lot of the models were predicting. So it looks like most of the south coast is now going to get hit by snow, and I suppose most of the Midlands likely to get snow as well, whereas a couple of days ago this looked more like it'd be a sort of west-southwest event. So yeah, it looks pretty widespread and quite severe, this snowfall now.
Yeah, I think that what we were thinking was that it was well, what most of the model forecasts were thinking was it was going to push more over Ireland and just affect the southwest, but indeed it does seem to be quite a bit further east. Some of the models I think did okay on this.
Yeah, I did snow watch last night, and Arpege was showing it would be widespread in that manner. I think Halam as well, but some of the other models didn't really get that. I think it's all going to push over to the west later, however, so it'll probably all finish up as we expected it to. It's just it's starting off a lot further east.
Indeed, I mean you can sort of see where it's. I hate having to use this radar because you can't see the coastlines. Unfortunately, the other one's not working because it's down due to. But I think this is basically sort of the Dartmoor type area, sort of near Exeter.
Yeah, I think that looks about right.
And I think the Meteors have basically I've got a red warning here, which is
there's a red out for that area and going up to South Wales as well. I think.
Possibly, I mean that's not
possibly just into the Southwest Midlands as well. I think.
Yeah, I mean that's not too surprising. I think. I mean, as this precipitation comes over land, I mean, I think what will tend to happen, even though this is sort of a front and is generally sort of more coherent than shower activity, the orography will tend to break up the front to some degree, so that some areas over higher ground will see a lot more precipitation, and whereas others sort of sheltered by higher ground will see a lot less. So you'll still tend to get quite a distribution of snow. I mean, everywhere in the southwest is going to get a dump of snow, but but some places will still get a lot more than others.
I would think over hills and moors, it could be like huge drifts and 30 centimeters of snow over the hills and moors, perhaps.
But equally, those in the lee of higher ground, sort of particularly to the north and northwest of higher ground, although I still think we'll see maybe 5 to 10 centimeters, that they might be disappointed to the extent that it'll snow a lot less there than many sort of places surrounding it.
Yeah, probably
that as well. So actually, one thing I wanted to briefly touch upon before we looked at the models is the record that's sort of caused at risk of falling. I'm not exactly sure how the Meteorologist defines these temperature records. But my understanding was that the maximum temperature was defined as occurring between the period 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And of course, it's 6 p.m. now, which means we have a pretty good idea of whether or not the record's been broken. So I'd draw your attention to this weather station here. And you can see it's actually still going up. So I suppose, I mean, we've got it up to 5 o'clock, and it's minus 5.3 at 5 o'clock. The all-time March high record is minus 4.6. So this one would have to rise another 0.7 degrees in order for us to break the record. But of course, I mean, you can see that even if it rises, it's not likely to break that record. That's what I'm essentially saying. But even if this one does somehow massively rise in the next hour, we've also got this one, which is at minus 4.7, which is 0.1 degrees lower than the record. This one, which is again a few decimals below the record. This one, again, a few decimals below the record. I don't know about that one. I think that one's probably a mountain site. But there's the point I'm trying to make is that there's a handful of sites in Wales and the southwest of England, maybe half a dozen, that are below the -4.6 record. So I think I think we can be fairly sure now that today was the coldest March day ever, as far as the metal records go. I'm not. How do you know how far back the records go, Gav? Is it
I'm
like
not sure how far they would go back, but I suppose they go back at least a century, I think. So
okay, so we can be pretty sure that today was probably the coldest March day in 100 years, insofar as the maximum temperatures were concerned.
Yeah, I would think so. It's certainly, this spell is certainly up there with like the coldest sort of spells that we've had for, you know, the past 100 years. I mean, it's not at the level of the coldest, which was 1987, as a single one-off spell. But it's certainly up there with a lot of the coldest spells. So it's really noteworthy spell of weather, this. And like you say, there's a very good chance with Broken, the March cold temperature record as well. So that will be very notable.
Indeed. So I guess at this point we should probably have a quick look at the charts and then maybe take some questions. So neither of us have looked at the GFS. I think it's appropriate at this point to use the 850 HPA temperatures rather than the geopotential heights, just because the situation is complicated with regards to this low. So the air mass is probably more useful. So through this evening into Friday, is the situation at Friday tomorrow. Cold air still entrenched across the northeast. It's turned a little bit milder across the southwest, but at this point it's probably snowing across most of the southwest. Although actually you can see the 0 Celsius contour. If you're inside that, I would imagine we'll be possibly seeing grauple or freezing rain.
That's right. I think there could be quite a nasty freezing rain situation as well down in the very far southwest. So I mean, that's always lethal when you get sort of a glaze of ice over. I mean, it looks absolutely stunning. I've only really seen that once in my lifetime to any major degree, which was January 1996. And it looks absolutely stunning, but it is lethal if you happen to step outside the back door, because it's just like everything is a sheen of ice. And I think there could be a bit of that down in the far southwest by tomorrow morning. So
one way that you can, I guess, tell what you want to look for is where the really mild air is rising above the cold air. So if you follow these ice bars, you can see where the winds are sort of coming in from the southeast or the south, sort of in parts of this near the south coast. And if we look at the actual wind speeds, you can see that they're still coming in from the northeast, despite the fact that at higher levels the warmer air is coming in from the south. So sort of where the winds are sort of crossed, where you get these where at the 850 level the winds are coming in from the south or southeast, and at the surface they're coming in from the northeast. This is the sort of area I would expect to see freezing rain. So basically pretty much the entire south coast, I think, is at risk of seeing freezing rain at some point.
Yeah, it could be quite widespread, that, and really dangerous stuff.
I mean, you can actually see that at 12 o'clock, the temperatures are still sub-zero for the vast majority of the south, with only sort of Cornwall being above freezing. Again, you can kind of see what's happening here. That sort of on the tip of Cornwall, we've got these southerly winds coming in off the sea, but sort of for Devon, we've got these northeasterly winds. So Cornwall seems to be like the tip of Cornwall seems to be the only sort of place where it's actually going to turn back to rain. But the rest of the south coast and anywhere in this 0C contour. So actually, if you look at this particular one, so basically, I guess western parts of Devon, possibly even parts of the southeast, if we can get some precipitation to that, are at risk of seeing that freezing rain. And then anywhere sort of that's below freezing at the 850 level, but still quite close to sort of -1, -2, so sort of a wider area of Wales and England, I'd expect that they'd be at risk of seeing not freezing rain, but grauple. So that's these snowflakes that have been heavily rimed, so they almost look like soft hail.
Yeah, it's going to be very noteworthy. So especially on the south coast, so with that freezing rain and the glaze, I think there's quite a lot of concern about that. So people are going to need to be aware of that.
I think also we'll also start to see a few more showers coming into the northeast of England and parts of Scotland, because I mean I was commenting earlier on the weather outlook that I think part of the reason the shower activity has died away from northeast England today is an increasing wind shear, but the wind shear should decline once again, so we should see some more showers coming back into particularly sort of southern Scotland, eastern Scotland, northeast, basically the same places that have seen the most showers anyway. We could see a few more.
I think those showers are at risk of quite those areas are quite at risk of quite significant snow showers tomorrow and Saturday, and maybe even Sunday as well.
Exactly. So we'll go through Friday and Saturday. So this is Saturday. We compare it to the previous iteration, and I guess the cold air. I mean, actually, I'd said the cold air looks like it's retreated. Looks like it's further north on this run than the previous one, but actually, it kind of depends whether you're in the west or the east. The extent of the cold air looks similar, but you can see the complexity of the situation. On the previous one, we sort of had this triple low structure, whereas on this one, we've only got sort of one area of low pressure.
That's right. So I think over the weekend, we're going to start next week, we're going to gradually see for England and Wales the cold air retreating. But the north, it looks like Scotland and probably northeast England are going to stay cold, at least at the start of next week. And I think there's a bit of a suggestion within a lot of the model output that this cold won't be to the same severity, nowhere near. But there is the suggestion that the cold could actually start to return through the course of next week and might bring us another bout, some more bouts of snow sort of later next week. So we're not going to spring anytime soon, I don't think. That's for definite.
I mean, you can see at the point on the Saturday lunchtime, the milder air has come into the southwest and the south at this point, but we've still got easterly winds for most parts of northern England. So we look at the temperatures. The temperatures are slightly up, but these are the maximum temperatures. The maximum temperatures are still sort of sub-zero for many parts of northern England, 2 or 3 degrees in parts of the Midlands. I mean, that's still cold. It's still well below average for the time of year. It's just
that's right.
And at this point, the mild air is still basically only in Devon, western parts of Devon and Cornwall. So let's go a little bit further to Sunday. So Sunday, the mild air sort of making a little bit more progress. The difference between these charts though is quite remarkable. I mean, if you compare the 6Z with the 12Z, you can see that if you look at all of these other systems, they're basically identical. But this system, every chart changes the look of this area of low pressure, and that could be important because this is not a subtle change in the structure of the low pressure, and the structure of the low pressure is going to determine exactly where the precipitation is. So if you change the structure of the low pressure, the precipitation areas are going to be completely different, which basically means that we can't adequately forecast where the precipitation is going to be through the weekend. Let alone where the rain snow line is going to be. I think this is all up for debate. I mean, if you look at this area of low pressure, the change is quite slight, but the change is pretty significant.
Yeah, I think by Sunday, much of England and Wales should be out of the snow risk, and the snow risk will be sort of Scotland, probably still to northern England. But further south now, I think we should be starting to come out of it by Sunday. But Saturday could still bring some snow, even to parts of Wales and the Midlands, I would have thought. So we're not coming out of this deep freeze quickly. That's for sure. And
Scotland seems like it could still hold on to the a lot of the cold weather.
Yeah, even into next week, it may never really turn milder for Scotland. Actually,
you can see that by Monday. I mean, this is not mild air. This is just less cold air. It's sort of there's not much of a wind either to really blow any mild air in. So the temperatures, I imagine, will have lifted up a little bit. So we'll be seeing. I
suppose that could be fog, quite a bit of fog as well.
Yeah, exactly, and of course with the rising temperatures and the evaporating snow, we'll be seeing fog over many parts of England and Wales during this period. But you can still see it's cold over Scotland, which sort of hangs on to the cold air. Then beyond that, I mean, there's still a lot of cold air over Scandinavia, so turning the winds back into the east sort of later on in midweek could easily turn it cold again, especially
by midweek. The cold air is coming back, isn't it? Not to this severity. You have to keep emphasising that what we're experiencing now is very unusual, and it's highly unlikely we'll get as cold as this again in March for a very long time. But I mean, it's probably going to be cold enough for more snow in the second half of next week.
You can see sort of we end the high resolution part of the run still entrenched in that cold air, just not to the extent that we've had it. What I would say about this though is that the forecast seems quite uncertain in regards to the shape of the low pressure, and what the things that the common themes that do seem to be apparent here is that it's going to gradually turn milder for England and Wales, maybe not so for Scotland. But the actual sort of shape of the low and the regions of precipitation, I think, is quite hard to predict even over the weekend.
So there's probably even into the weekend, it's probably still going to be quite a bit of nowcasting going on in terms of the rain snow sort of divide. But the general idea is that gradually that rain snow divide will inch further and further north.
So here's the UKMO. The UKMO has been less progressive in general about keeping the cold away. So I'm just interested to see what it's doing this time. So it's quite similar to the GFS, and actually this particular iteration of the UKMO is actually quite bullish in bringing the mild air through the UK a lot faster. So we've actually got slightly milder air coming into most parts of England and Wales by Sunday on the UKMO. I mean, if we look at the 850 temperatures, yeah, you can see the cold air is across Scotland on this one.
So it definitely looks like England and Wales is likely to turn less cold. I mean, it's comparatively milder, but we're not talking about anything to get all that excited about. But England and Wales should come out of the freezer by Sunday.
The UKMO actually is quite a lot milder than the GFS. It doesn't really attempt to bring back an easterly wind, and instead we've got this sort of returning polar maritime stuff. So that will be quite. It's not going to be mild by any means, but it will be sort of more average type cold conditions for the start of March. Sort of your more typical March cold spell.
That's right.
We can actually view the ECM. Well, the start of the ECMWF now, which is the one that people take the most heed of usually. So the ECM, I suppose, sits somewhere in between. It's interesting though. The shape of the low does not seem to be modelled well in any of the models. They all seem to not really understand how this is going to sort of play out. The other thing, of course, with regards to this is that the wind speed will be quite low during this period. If this ECM is right, we've got quite low winds in the UK, and that means evaporative cooling effects could start to come into play. So even if it does turn milder, that doesn't mean that the risk of snow vanishes by sort of Sunday, Saturday.
No, that's right. I think excuse me. I think the cold air will slowly be forced northwards over the weekend, but it's not a quick get out of the cold air. I mean, we're going to lift out of the freezer, but it's nothing to get overly excited about. We're certainly not seeing signs of spring any time in the near future.
I would concur with that. So I guess the cold spell is going out by ice rather than fire. Sometimes we see these very quick breakdowns with milder air sort of pushing through and the colder air sort of evaporating in a day, and you get those very foggy spells as all the snow sort of melts. But we're not going to see that. We're going to see a gradual thaw, a gradual return to sort of slightly below average type conditions.
That will be worth looking at probably in about 15 minutes to see whether that's going into a cold pattern in about, in the second half of next week, because that low looks like it's quite a long way south as we get to it, which is like for the early part of next week, isn't it? So that'll be worth looking at probably at the end, towards the end of the chat, to see what that run has done.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. We could do that at the end. I thought maybe we should take some questions now and then maybe look at the high resolution model forecasts.
Okay, so I've got a question. Was asked by Mark Kanish in the Wirral. Mark wanted to know whether tonight's sort of snow and blizzard is likely to get to him up in the Wirral, and I don't think it's a prime position, but certainly some of the snow could get that far north as it runs up the Irish Sea. And also, Mark was asking about why in this particular cold spell have not had the sort of frost that we had in December 2010, when there was a big rime sort of frost covering all sort of surfaces, particularly trees, bushes, and that kind of thing. And I suppose the only difference would be that the air with this east has been quite a lot drier, perhaps, than it was in 2010. I'm not sure why that would be, but certainly there has been kind of rime yet from this cold spell that we saw in 2010 on the tree. So maybe it's because the air is drier that brought in from the east.
That seems like a good explanation. The dew points have been extraordinarily low, very low relative humidity values. There's a possibility, I suppose, as we start to import more moisture, that we could see a few frosts, but it seems less likely with the cloud and the strong wind as well.
Right. Maybe next week, if the fog does descend over the melting snow cover, we might see a bit of rime appearing on the trees. Then perhaps if it's freezing fog.
Exactly. Someone's asked about Weltipool, whether they're going to see any snow.
I would think we can expect quite significant snow there, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that probably not the worst affected part, but 5 to 10 centimeters of snow seems quite reasonable. So someone's asking about Swansea. That seems to be an area that's more likely to be in the sort of fearing the brunt of the weather, somewhere like Swansea.
Yeah. I think Swansea will probably be quite badly hit tonight, and maybe even into tomorrow morning as well. I would think at least 10 centimeters could be expected for Swansea.
Exactly. That's sort of 10 to 15 centimeters seems to be reasonable for somewhere like Swansea.
And, but again, bear in mind with that as well, there will be probably significant drifting because of the strength of the wind. So higher drifts than that amount.
Looking at the radar, there's a pulse of sort of precipitation that looks quite near there anyway to begin with. So again, it depends. Like the orography tends to break up the front, and I mean, I've often had situations where, so I've been sort of in the east of England, and the front, and you get a strong front that comes over the Pennines, and the Pennines breaks the front up, so that you tend to get these pulses of heavier precipitation and lighter precipitation, and sometimes the heavier precipitation tends to be over the hills. But if you end up sort of like, let's say, the Vale of York, for example, even in that situation, some parts of the Vale of York might get heavier precipitation and some parts might get lighter. So it's not always easy to tell who's going to get the deepest snow cover necessarily.
That's right. So I'm on Twitter, and we've been asked by Alex to explain freezing rain, which I think we went into the explanation for freezing rain, didn't we? So I suspect Alex asked that before we explained how freezing rain occurs, because we did that. Jennifer is asking, will snow intensify overnight in Somerset? So yeah, I think Somerset is one of those areas that's likely to be hit very badly tonight, maybe 10 centimeters or more, with bigger drifts in Somerset. And also Dan is asking about Swindon. Will the low be as far east as Swindon? So again, I think Swindon probably has a good chance of some decent, so maybe not as much as other areas, but I think there will be some quite significant snow for Swindon. Let's see.
Someone's asking about Birmingham. I think Birmingham is likely to see some snow, but not to the degree of other parts of the southwest. So maybe a few to several centimeters. I'm less sure about this snow event than I was about even about the showers, to be honest, because the models are handling this event so differently. Again, I'm talking about the shape of the low, where it's a very complicated system with a lot of different fronts on it, a lot of different occluded fronts. It's not just a simple system, so it's quite difficult to tell exactly where's going to get the worst hits. For somewhere like Birmingham, I'd say between a few centimeters to several. I find it difficult to be more specific than that, unfortunately.
Yeah, what we can say for Birmingham and areas east in the Midlands is that the precipitation area has been trended eastwards. So there will be more snow, I would have thought, than we was expecting or anticipating a day or so back. But again, it's to the southwest of Birmingham that I think the worst of the conditions will be. So the southwest Midlands, Herefordshire, Worcestershire, and then further south west of that is likely to be the hardest hit areas. But I think even places like Birmingham can expect some significant snow in the coming hours. Of course, they're quite high up as well, so they will see quite a bit of drifting as well if any snow but does fall.
Someone's asking how far the snow will get north. I mean, this is again really sort of summarizes the issue that we're having. I don't know. I mean, the models are all suggesting different solutions, and I would be surprised if it gets into northern England. But the Met Office have issued an amber warning for parts of northern England, and I really don't know why they've done that, because I can't see any significant precipitation on the radar. But apart from, I mean, even the northeast coast is seeing fewer showers today. But the Met Office have issued an amber warning for large parts of northern England. I'm not really sure why they've done that, because I can't see any showers on the radar.
No, and as this system pushes northwards, the idea we always had is that the heaviest of the snow was going to be for the southwest, and as the system pushes northwards, it's also going to be pushing westwards. So it is going to probably finish up about where we expected, with southwest Wales, southwest England, southwest Midlands being the hardest hit. But it's just how far north the band gets before it starts to pivot to the west. And I don't think anybody can really answer that question. It could get to the North Midlands, might get a little bit further north than that. But again, it's going to be a case of being vigilant with the radar and just an outcast sort of situation.
I wonder if I can bring up a facts analysis chart just to, I mean, sort of trying to emphasize how complicated this is going to be. Okay, here we go. So this is what the Met Office are going for. I mean, they're going for quite a complicated system. I mean, actually, it's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. But you can see that this one to the south, which is going to affect us over the weekend, has also got a bunch of fronts on it. But I wouldn't be surprised if another front just pops up that we weren't expecting. That's not to say I'm expecting some area outside of the southwest to get as much snow, but there could be some moderate snow elsewhere. Somewhere like Northern Ireland, I think we'll see some moderate amounts of snow.
That's the fact chart for midday tomorrow, isn't it? So yeah, that's something that we've not really spoken about yet, because after this system pushes away to the west overnight and into tomorrow morning, then there's going to be another front, that occlusion that we see just there across northern France, midday tomorrow and into the Channel. That's going to push northwards, probably bring more snow. It'll probably bring freezing rain to the extreme south, as we've already explained. But further north, areas further north, that would probably bring more snow to Wales and Midlands, possibly East Anglia as well, later tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. So that could be another snow event coming up later tomorrow for some central parts of England and Wales.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, it's just it just seems like it's quite difficult to know exactly where the precipitation distribution is going to be. But the general theme of it being concentrated in the southwest and also parts of Ireland. We said this in our last broadcast, that Ireland was potentially at risk of getting hammered by this snow event, and that seems to have basically held true.
Yeah, they've had a lot of snow already in parts of Ireland, and that's going to continue. I mean, it's going to get very bad tonight. I know there's a red warning being issued by the Irish Met Office
I mean, actually, I think Ireland will, as a whole, see more snow than Southwest England. I think parts of Dartmoor, where the snow gets concentrated, could see the most snow out of anyone. But outside of Dartmoor, I think the next most snowfall is going to be seen in somewhere, maybe even like Dublin, somewhere in the southeast of Ireland. They could get a lot of snow. We're talking inches to feet of snow in these sorts of parts, and also the same over Dartmoor, perhaps as well.
And again, with very severe drifting. So I'm on Gaz Weathervids, some questions from Gaz Weathervids. So Shiram is asking just a general question. Do you think we'll have a run of colder winters over the next few years? Well, the Gaz Weathervids winter 17-18 forecast was for a colder winter. We predicted we'd have a colder winter with more snow and generally cold weather compared to any winter back to 12-13, and I think that's more or less verified. And I did say at the time that this could be setting up for maybe some more colder winters as we heading towards solar minimum. Of course, we can't say that next winter will be definitively cold because that will have its own independent drivers. And for example, if we was to get a huge El Nino appearing, that would go against the chance of a cold winter for next winter. But I think generally overall, the next few winters are likely to be trending colder, and this winter is probably the beginning of that, in the same way that the winter of 2008-09 was kind of like the beginning of a bit of a run of colder winters that we had from 08-09 to 12-13. So yeah, in theory, we could be in some more cold winters, but can't definitely say, of course, that any one particular winter will be cold, because they all have their own independent sort of issues going on in terms of ENSO and all of that kind of thing. Harry is asking, do we think the southeast will continue to get snow tonight? So there will be some more snow pushing through the southeast probably in the next few hours, but the overall idea is that this system is trending to the west-southwest, so with time the chance of snow will diminish in the southeast. But then bear in mind, tomorrow when a second band of snow is likely to push northwards. On the coast, that's likely to be freezing rain, but it is like to turn northwards as it pushes north.
Just I thought of something regarding your previous point about a run of cold winter, actually. And it was about the Arctic sea ice and the recent heat wave at the North Pole. So you might have heard in the media that the North Pole, that the UK was colder than the North Pole this week. And that was sort of used to emphasize how cold this period of weather was for us. But equally, it should be used to emphasize how warm the North Pole was compared to what it usually is. So we've had weather that's been about between 5 and 10 degrees below average, which is quite extreme for us. But the North Pole has had temperatures between 30 and 40 degrees above average. So temperatures on the North Pole were 2 or 3 degrees above freezing this week. It's a lot colder there now, but that's remarkably warm for the North Pole, record-breakingly warm.
That's right, and there is the suggestion, the theory that the diminishing sea ice is probably playing a role in the blocking that we've been seeing over recent winters as well. Although until this winter, the last few winters haven't really had all that much northern blocking, but there's definitely a theory about that what's happening in the Arctic is having an effect on the rates of northern blocking.
And that was my point I was trying to make, and I would agree with that. This particular blocking was probably related to the southern stratospheric warming we had, but the position where it's set up with the high pressure over northern parts of Scandinavia was probably related to the fact that the Atlantic part of the Arctic was so warm, which allowed high pressure to set up there, and it in turn caused this very warm plume of air to affect the North Pole. So the idea of high pressure setting up in the Atlantic Arctic, whenever it does that tends to bring cold air here, and we tend to get Scandinavian highs, that sort of thing. And the Atlantic part of the Arctic is probably the most changing part of the Arctic as well. It's the part of the Arctic that is melting the most rapidly. So to put this in perspective, the current winter cover in the Atlantic Arctic is about the same as the summer cover in the Atlantic Arctic only 10 years ago. So you can kind of see that this part of the world is changing more rapidly than any other part of the world on the planet. So the effects of that, I think, will mean that these sorts of blocking events are probably going to become more common over the next few years.
Yeah,
so it's food for thought anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. So we also got a question from Leo. He's asking whether Emma, I assume he's talking about the snow from Storm Emma, will reach Nottingham. So again, we've got a question mark about how far north this snow is pushing. But I think there is a reasonable chance that for a time, anyway, the snow will reach Nottingham before it all starts to pivot away to the west and to the southwest. Let's carry on scrolling through. So let's have a look at can you discuss with Qantas from Niger? Can you discuss with Quantum whether the lowest maximum temperature for March broke any records today? So we discussed that at the start of the video recording, Nigel. But we think we probably have broken the coldest March record.
I've just got the the weather station that I looked at the beginning of the video. List comb. Temperature has risen in the last hour from -5.3 to -5.2. So yes, I'm almost certain that the record has fallen.
We think the record's fallen, but until it's confirmed by UK Met, we can't definitively say that it did, but we think it probably has. Nigel again is asking, can you discuss with Quantum why it didn't feel cold, very cold yesterday, despite the temperature raining below freezing, 7.5 of Britain? I thought it felt very cold.
I imagine if you get out of the wind, the sun is, and get a bit of sunshine, the sun is still, I mean, not yesterday, but I remember getting into the car on, I think it was Monday, or it could have been Tuesday, but the sun was out, and the temperature was, I guess, about 0.5 degrees, slightly over freezing. And the car was a barbecue. It was 30 degrees inside the car, and the car was just sitting in the sun. And it was 30 degrees actually inside the car. So I guess that goes to show that if you get a bit of sun and shelter from the wind, it can still feel remarkably warm, particularly in the south, where the sun is stronger. But if it's cloudy and snowing and 30-mile-an-hour winds, it's not going to feel warm.
No, it felt really, really bitter when I was out today. I went out this afternoon. I'm still not warmed up yet. So really, really cold this afternoon. Joe Costello is asking how many centimetres will there be in Leitrim in Ireland. So not sure where that is, but we said that the Republic is likely to get probably more snow than England and Wales, away from sort of areas that are very hilly anyway. So I'm not sure how many.
Wherever you are in Ireland, you're going to see snow. It's just
there's going to be bad weather for Ireland. I mean, you can expect very significant drifting of snow and really severe and unpleasant conditions. Andy is asking, would we agree that this is the coldest spell since December 2010? Yep, definitely think it's the coldest spell that we've had since December 2010. It may even be, in terms of the wind chill anyway, I'm not sure, it may even be a little bit colder. Than,
I think the last 2 days were colder than most of the days. And in terms of maximum temperatures, not necessarily in terms of minimum ones. I don't know. I mean, I think this 2010 lasted a lot longer. And
roundabouts, but
then the minimum the minimum, we had sub -20 on several occasions during 2010. So
that's right. But from as we explained in the first discussion we did on Sunday, in terms of the 850 upper air temperatures, they've been colder.
They were colder. I mean, if this had actually happened during December, then we would have seen something that definitely would have rivaled 2010.
That's right. Ed is asking, will we have snow in Oxfordshire? We have snow in Oxfordshire. Will it carry on in the night and through till tomorrow morning? So yeah, the snow is going to carry on for quite some time, I would have thought, in Oxfordshire, and then eventually it'll start to pull down towards the southwest. But you're going to get quite a significant spell of snow for Oxfordshire, I would have thought. Paul is saying that there's actually been snow falling in Edinburgh today since red warning has been lifted. There's actually more snow falling in Edinburgh today since the red warning was lifted by the UK Met Office than yesterday when it was in place. So that's quite surprising. And Paul is asking, another Paul is asking, hi Gav and Q, will Norfolk get any more snow? So Norfolk may get a little bit of snow this evening, but areas further west, southwest, are really in the firing line more than Norfolk. Norfolk may get some more snow later tomorrow as that second occlusion pushes up from the south.
I don't think we're going to see any more showers though for Norfolk, because we're into the milder upper air temperatures. I think the showers and that from this point onwards are probably going to be limited to Yorkshire northwards. I think the showers will actually start to intensify a little bit again though for northeast England, because we will lose that wind shear. But I think they won't form. It's the showers are going to be focused on northern parts now.
So it'll just be back down to that occlusion that's going to push northwards across England and Wales through the second half of tomorrow afternoon.
I would say probably not favoured, to be honest. But
as that comes northwards, it's likely to fizzle. So by the time it gets to Norfolk, if it is doing anything, it's likely to be quite light precipitation anyway, probably. Brian is saying that there's an incredible snow event currently going on in Wareham, at least 6 inches, and drifting snow, snowing heavily, gale force, winds. So it looks pretty grim down there. Stanley is saying, hi Gav, Q. Emma looks have a bit of weather band pushing up towards southeast London. Will that give any accumulation? It certainly could give some for time anyway before it pushes away to the west. So carrying on, Jeff is saying looks like amber warning is spreading northeastwards apparently. UK Met Office, so seeming a now casting situation for them. Tom is saying, is asking, hello Gav and Q, given the poor performance of the models during this recent period, can we say there is a lot yet with these model designers have to do? And again, I would agree with that. It has been a pretty poor performance all round in terms of this snow that we've had this week, and particularly in relation to tonight's snow event. But again, it's always been the same in my lifetime, and I don't expect it to change really greatly in the next few years either, that a lot of the time when it comes to snow, it does come down to like a nowcast type situation. So again, very often with snow in this country, it's a case of look out the window and keep an eye on the radar and see what's happening.
Should we have a quick look at the short-term models there? Because we'll hopefully be able to answer some more of these questions indirectly by looking at these high-resolution models. They're all showing different. I mean, okay, so let's have. This is the Wolf one. I tend to rate this one quite highly. I've got precipitation type here. So this is currently sort of where we are. Actually, it's 1 hour French time, 1 hour different. So this is currently where we are now. So the general idea is that the snow sort of pushes to the northwest and affects most parts of Ireland, but the south is also going to get. I don't really know what's going on here. This almost seems like this is all graphically generated precipitation, but I don't see it on the radar, so I'm a bit skeptical about that. Hints of some sort of more showers in northern Scotland. Yeah, this one, you can see the sort of rain shadow effect I was talking about. Like some parts not really getting anything, but we sort of compare this to the radar. It doesn't seem to have handled it well at all, does it? In fact, actually, I'd say that where there was white on that model, we've actually got heavier precipitation there. Yeah,
that's right. I don't think it's a terribly good performance.
No, that's not good at all, is it? And you know, I'm not happy with that. That's not done. I mean, I think the general idea of it moving into Ireland is right, but I think it's under. I mean, if we look at the accumulation, we can see that there's parts of the southwest that are getting virtually nothing, and we can see that parts of Wales that are getting nothing as well. Sort of compared to the radar. I mean, actually, that it has handled that. It has got this sort of dry slot here, which is sort of what I was talking about, but I still think it's sort of underestimated that. And then it's got this, which I don't see that at all on the radar.
No, I don't think that's a particularly good performance from that model at all.
I'm not too impressed with that. Shall we try? I mean, actually, we can't trust the convection on our own, but we can have a look at the front. This one's, I guess, a little bit better in getting the precipitation right across the southwest, but it has this even bigger window across Wales that doesn't seem to be modelled, and also the arome seems to keep it all too far to the west as well. And then this, yeah, that's odd, isn't it? So tomorrow we've got this pulse of precipitation moving.
That's that occlusion coming up from the south again tomorrow. That might
that wasn't on the Wharf model. So this has got a completely different suggestion about what's going to happen there.
That's right. So again, tomorrow will give us more headaches in terms of that occlusion. I assume the thing with that is how active it's going to be.
So this one seems to have got the southwest better. This is the arpege model. I'm more pleased with how this one has handled the southwest. It hasn't got these unrealistic windows to the same degree. I mean, again, there is a dry window across Wales, but it's not to the extent that the models were showing. This one seems to have done a little bit better in getting that about right. It's also got the extent of the precipitation further east better as well.
When I did snow watch last night, it looked like the most plausible, or one of the most plausible anyway.
Yeah, and you can see that tomorrow, like I said, this idea of we're starting to get these showers starting to form across northeast England again. So yeah, I think this solution is one that I'm more inclined to trust. We'll start this idea of bringing this precipitation band further north, that occlusion you were talking about, to affect parts of East Anglia, and then again more snow showers for northeast Scotland. I think this solution is probably more realistic. And then on Saturday, we bring these further pulses of precipitation. So that'll be a mixture of sleet and freezing rain, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, could well be.
But then as it pushes into Scotland, we still see a few wintry showers across Scotland by Sunday. I'm more impressed with that one. The one that people were talking about was the Hairlam as being a bit more accurate. It doesn't have the driest lots. But the Hairlam has it a lot further east. It has the bulk of the precipitation sort of in the West Midlands as well.
I think that could be a more realistic reflection, judging by where
I think this one overdoes it a little bit, though. I don't think we're going to be getting it as far sort of as South Yorkshire, East Anglia. I think this is a little bit too. And then again, it has the same idea of I do agree with the concept of reinvigorating these showers through tomorrow, because we'll lose that wind shear. So I do agree with that. It's not just this unrealistic area of snow across the Pennines that I don't understand where that's coming from. It's these showers sort of. I think I agree more with that. I think this one is quite good, but I think it overdoes the amount of snow in the east. What would you say?
From where the radar is right now, I think that's going to be quite close. I say it might be a little bit further east, but that might be the closest that we are, given where we're starting from. But again, I would suspect that no model is going to get this. No model is probably going to get this 100% right. So it'll just be sort of judging.
I would agree that this has done quite well. It's also got this area across northern parts of Ireland as well. It's got them a little bit sort of in the wrong place, but it's still.
When I did snow watch last night, I thought that Halam and Arpege were the two that looked the most plausible, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens, because again, it's just going to be a case of everybody looking out the window and keeping an eye on the radar to see where this precipitation goes.
I think people are setting themselves up for disappointment if they are not in. If they're not in southeast Scotland, east, possibly the far northeast of England, southwest England, South Wales, maybe Wales as a whole, and Ireland, maybe even Northern Ireland generally. If you're outside of those sorts of areas, if you see a decent amount of snow, that should be treated as a bonus more than anything else, I think, because I'd be sceptical of a lot of snow outside of these areas. I think southwest England and parts of southeast Ireland, but just Ireland generally, are gonna be worst affected.
Ireland are going to get a lot of snow.
Yes. I mean, that's
going to be no problem for Ireland to get snow. They're going to be really hammered by it.
I think this is a very uncertain forecast, but there are a few things that we can be very certain about, and Ireland is going to get hammered. Parts of Ireland will see, I think, feet of snow. I think Ireland is going to get, generally speaking, even more snow than Southwest England. I think we could be pretty sure about that.
I would agree, yeah.
But if you live in the West Midlands, the East Midlands, Southeast England, Yorkshire, southern parts of Northeast England, these sorts of areas, I would expect possibly some snow, but not huge amounts.
Yeah, I would agree with that again. Yeah, it always looked like it would be focused to the west, southwest, and despite the eastward shift of this system, that's still where the primary focus is, I think.
Well, let's see what the icon does. I know I don't like the icon as much as some people like it. I think it's terrible at convection, but it's okay for frontal precipitation. You think it's got that? I mean, it's overdone this dry window, hasn't it? Again, like the Wharf model, and it's also not got this area of precipitation far enough east.
That's right.
And it's also got, well, I know it doesn't do convection well, but it's also got these showers too far south as well, so it's also messed that up. The general story seems to be the worst affected areas: Ireland, Southwest England, with a band of precipitation that moves north through tomorrow, affecting parts of the Midlands, but not a lot coming out of that, and snow showers continuing across Northeast England, Southeast Scotland, and possibly Eastern Scotland as well.
Yeah, I agree. Should we have a final look at the ECM before we go?
Let's do that. So we got to about here. So we've sort of took the energy and slid it away underneath it. That's interesting, actually.
We start trying to pull back east winds. I thought that was going to go cold.
This is such a headache. I I feel sorry for the meteorites. I mean, having to predict the weather like next week, this is impossible, because this sort of situation, it doesn't even have to be cold to get snow under this sort of situation, because there's no wind. So when there's no wind, you just have it rain for 3 hours, and the evaporation of the rain turns it to snow. You don't even need cold air to get snow under these sorts of slack conditions. This sort of thing could just cause snow to appear almost anywhere, and we wouldn't even know until a few hours before it happened.
Not only with UK Met-Times, because I've got to do the weekend broadcast on Saturday, and I think that's going to be a real headache as well.
This is a total nightmare. About the only thing that we can say about next week is it's going to stay cold in the far northeast of Scotland, and it's going to turn a bit milder everywhere else. I wouldn't want to say where the snow's going to be, although when the snow does form, it's going to be that annoying, wet, big flake type snow that falls when the temperature is exactly 0 degrees and it doesn't get even a little bit below that.
My sort of thoughts are that we'll start off less cold away from central northern Scotland, and then I think the cold air will come back next week. Not to the severity of this week, but I think the cold air will have another go at us next week from around Wednesday through to the end of the week, and possibly the following weekend.
I mean, you can see the 0 degree isotherm never actually comes over the UK. Typically during the end of a cold spell, the 0 C isotherm would come over the UK, but it doesn't. Which means that the cold air could hang around to some degree, just sort of stagnate over the UK, particularly if we get this sort of situation where the wind, because of course the cold air is entrenched at the surface now. You need something to blow it away. So we get this sort of situation where the wind just drops, then this could be a situation where we just get fog everywhere, and then somewhere randomly gets a lot of snow. I don't know. It's quite difficult.
Very, very tricky to judge what's happening next.
Before we go, I want to just see if we can't get the ensembles yet, but I think it might be quite fun just to put the uncertainty of the 0Z ensembles up. Here we go. So this is the 0Z, because we'll have to wait a little bit longer. But if we look at we've got it on. Yeah. Look at the uncertainty. Okay, that's not quite as impressive as I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to see a larger. I imagine this is because this is geopotential height uncertainty rather than surface pressure uncertainty, which I imagine is a little bit higher. Not quite as impressive as I thought it was going to be. Still fairly uncertain though. If we have a look at maybe the wind. Yeah, we've got a sort of the wind sort of captures it a little bit better. We see these this region of higher uncertainty in the southwest on the 850 millibar wind.
That's right. So I think it's still quite uncertain next week, but my hunch is that second half next week, cold air has another go. So we'll see how that pans out.
Indeed, we will. I'm sure you'll be doing your week ahead forecast, won't you?
Yeah, and probably tear my hair out while I'm trying to get it together.
Anyway, I think that's more or less everything. So thank you all for everyone that tuned in. It's been a very cold week. We won't be doing as many live streams now until maybe next winter. If hopefully we get a bit more winter next winter. Well, that's up to the weather, isn't it? So
as always,
indeed. Thanks everyone for the contributions. And goodbye.